Yeah, I think we've almost got all the technology ready. Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening and welcome to Loxahatchee Grove's Town Council Workshop, Tuesday, August 19th. If we could have the roll call, please.
Mayor Browning,
Here.
Vice Mayor Gerald,
Here.
Councilman Golfenay, not yet. Councilman Liang, not here yet. Councilman Rocket.
Here. If you stand for the pledge, remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, again, we ask for wisdom and guidance. We ask for a civil meeting, a great meeting, and a very informative meeting. So watch over each one here. Thank you for your protection so far in this hurricane season. We pray in your name. Amen. Mark?
Thank you, Your Honor. This council workshop has been called in order to hear a presentation from Palm Beach State College officials relative to the Loxahatchee Groves Campus 5-year master plan. Tonight with us we have John Wisconsin, who I believe is going to be the primary presenter, but he has with him Kirk Stetson, Richard Becker, James Storms, and I do see Brian Seymour there as well. So with that, I think they're going to give you a broad overview of where they're at in the process, and I'll turn it over to John. Is that okay?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, citizens of the town, glad to be here this evening. My name is John. My name is John Wisconsin. I'm a director of facilities for Palm Beach State College and have been so for more than 20 years now. A number of months ago, the college brought forth to the town a request for a comp plan amendment and a rezoning of a parcel on B Road, a 75-acre parcel on the corner of B Road and State Road 80. The 22 acres immediately on the intersection, the corner of the intersection of B Road and State Road 80 is a commercial auto parcel, and it's not associated with the actual proposal that the college has made for the development of the campus at this location. The development plan that you see here is the same plan that was presented to the town back when the zoning request was made originally, and the comp plan amendment was requested. In that development plan, there were a number of things shown, including access points for both State Road 80, interconnecting access points that would be shared between the college and going on to the commercial site on the corner, and a single point of access to B Road. There are also a number of buffers that are required, as shown here, around the property. There are buffers between the college's property and the commercial property, and there were special provisions actually put together to increase the buffer to a minimum of 50 foot along the northern property line, with an increase of reduced building height for the first 250 feet across the northern portion of the property. The college has done a lot of surveying work on this particular parcel of land. We've done both topographic survey work, we've done soil boring investigation work, environmental research work on the property, and we found, amongst other things, a number of environmentally sensitive areas that are on this parcel of land that need to be permitted and remained as environmentally sensitive areas in the planning of this campus. These are some of the things that make this such a rich and beautiful site, as well as conducive to represent the area in which this campus is located in. So the areas that are numbered here are different cypress stands and wetlands that will be preserved as we go through with the planning and the development of this piece of property. We looked at the concept about how to develop a master plan for this particular parcel. we went back and looked at how we normally develop all of our campus plans on other sites. And typically, the average or the normal site would have a perimeter road which looped around the entire perimeter of the site, and then the inside of that perimeter road, there would be parking, and on the center of it, there would usually be all the buildings and the other facilities to be constructed as part of the campus. When we looked at this particular site, we looked at a number of different options for the design, but it was felt that the loop-around road going around the entire site with the road would do a couple things that would be a negative impact to the site rather than a positive enhancement. Number one, it would call for the destruction of an awful lot of natural vegetation, which we didn't see would really fit our needs as far as what we were trying to do for the development of the property. All the extra impervious area that would be added with the complete loop road around the site would actually add to our drainage and retention requirements, which would require us to level more trees and more acreage on the site to provide for groundwater and rainwater retention on the property. So with the designers and the planners that we worked with in the development of this master plan, we came up with a plan that had a single point of entrance at the present time on Southern Boulevard, from Southern Boulevard. That comes into the property northward, and a couple pieces of it will branch off and connect into the commercial property that is immediately to the east of the entrance. And then it will loop around through the area across the northern part of the commercial property and eventually tie into B Road. We looked at this is actually the entirety of the road system that's proposed for the development of this particular campus. Immediately to the west and to the north of this road system, in the somewhat orange shaded areas, vehicular parking areas. We're looking at these areas only being actually developed for parking as buildings are actually built on the site. We're going to build sufficient parking on the site so that we can take care of the needs of the people that are actually planning to use the site, but we're not going to build all the parking at once since there's no need, number one, for the expense or for leveling all the vegetation on the site just to put a lot of asphalt in. At the present time, we're doing quite a bit of investigative work with our civil engineers as the type of surface parking that we're proposing for the site that will minimize the amount of water retention that's actually required to be maintained on the site associated with this improvement. And then off to the further to the west and further to the north in the yellow irregular shaped area are the areas that we're intending to actually build the buildings. And there's some 10 or 11, 12 buildings proposed for the total of, I think it's just under 650,000 square feet as was originally proposed on this plan, that could be built or may be built at some time in the future in these yellow areas, leaving the areas on the immediate western portion of the property and the northern portion of the property in a natural state for the purpose of maintaining the vegetation or providing area if we do need additional area for the stormwater retention on the property. The other thing we thought was important is it's such a beautiful natural site is that the development of the plans is intended to provide visual connections with the landscape, the native landscape that exists on the property already, as indicated by the arrows shown on this plan. Let's go back one here. The development area for phase one, and this is a phase one master plan that we're presenting for the town's consideration, is actually intended to be located down in the southern western portion of the property. This is an area of the property that is primarily devoid of any major tree stands, although there are a few native trees that we found in this particular area, along with quite a few exotic trees in this area. So, but the majority of this area down along Southern Boulevard, once you get past the exotics that buffer the property along the edge of State Road 80, is basically open farmland from the past. The phase one master plan then would propose to build the circulation road, again coming from State Road 80, and going around and connecting to B Road. And the parking that is required, the parking that is shown here, is the parking that is proposed to be required for the first 3 buildings that are included in phase 1 of the development. At the present time, the college is only planning to build 1 building on the site. We looked at these first 3 buildings may be built over the next 5 to 7 years, depending on the needs of the educational programs that are located on this property and the availability of funding that might come from the state or other sources for the purpose of design and construction. The first building, located closest to Southern Boulevard, is the building that is currently under design. The trees, we sent the surveyors in there with specific requirements to do a tree survey so that we could site the buildings around the native vegetation that does exist in this portion of the site without removing any of the native trees. As the other 2 buildings will be similarly located in the future when funding is available to move forward with the design of those 2 buildings. The other kind of long rectangular piece that is way up on the north end of the parking lot, and there's another one along the property line adjacent to the water feature on the north side of the commercial, are 2 alternate locations for a central chill water plant. We're not totally sure that we're going to build a central chill water plant. The initial study that we had done indicates that a chill water plant with thermal ice storage would be the most cost-efficient initial conventional approach to providing air conditioning for the particular buildings in question. We're looking at other alternatives at the present time to see if we want to go ahead and build a central plant facility or decentralized utilities as we go with the individual buildings. But this is the phase 1 master plan as you're looking at it right now. The northern 2/3 of the property, about 50-some acres, that is north of the parking area here, with the exception of the B Road extension, which is necessary to get cars back out to B Road so they can take advantage of the signal for eastbound traffic movements, is going to remain natural. At the present time, we're only planning for the first phase. Once we get further down the road and the campus grows in that, we'll be back to this council and taking a look at the development of phase 2. But like I said, that's a good 5 to 7 years or more away. From this master plan, which is after it comes through the town here, is going to go before our board and eventually needs to be submitted to the state of Florida Department of Education. We've actually been using this master plan, though, for the development of the phase 1, building 1 plan that the architects are working on at the present time. This particular plan is the architectural site plan that is being developed thus far in the schematic design for the first building. Again, we're only building the 1 building that is the southernmost, or the bottom building that is located on this property. The other 2 buildings are, this building here is one that we're actually designing for construction along with this parking and the road going out to B Road. The other 2 buildings are placeholders. We'd like to know, when we plan anything out, we want to know not only what we're doing with the initial building, but how it's going to work with the future buildings that are built on this particular site. One thing we asked the designers to do is to shift the location of this building slightly to the north. And although this line right here indicates another road eventually or possibly going to the west, it is not part of the initial construction on this campus. What we're trying to do is preserve enough real estate between the retention pond along State Road 80 and the first building that is constructed, so that at some time in the future, if the property that is located west of this campus should possibly be rezoned commercial, that there could be another joint entry similar to this entry that was designed that would service both this commercial property and the college's site. If maybe in the future we could find the ability to actually negotiate another joint entry with this property owner, when this property gets developed at some day in the future, Because at this point here, which is A Road and State Road 80, we are finally far enough away from the signalized intersection of B Road that it would actually allow us a signalized intersection right on State Road 80, which would then mitigate how much traffic is actually needed to be going out to B Road in the future. So we're hoping that the town will, at one time in the future, when this property is comes in for development, assuming it will at some time, that you remember that we have an interest to possibly participate in the design of an interconnecting joint use entrance road and exit road at this point. This is actually a pond that is being designed currently to handle the stormwater runoff from the paved impervious sections of the parking that goes along with the first building that's shown here. There's actually a little bit more than the minimum amount of parking that's being provided with the first building. And that's being done for a very specific purpose. The first building that's proposed to be built is around 50,000 square feet. It contains 3 computer classrooms, 10 normal classrooms, about 12.5 offices, a couple student study areas or flexible classroom spaces that could be converted back or forth. It includes both internal and external student gathering space, some minor food service areas, security area, and a 250 person or 250 seat meeting hall. The meeting hall in the first building is being built as part of the construction because it will facilitate not only the college's larger gatherings, but also become a public space for the town to use for larger gatherings where it needs a facility, and the college has got this building completed. So that's the master plan, and in conjunction with the master plan, this is our phase 1 site plan so far as it's being developed. We have made certain modifications, not in the location, but in the design of this entry road feature, and that was done in order to tie in certain locations and make them work not only with our site, but with the adjacent commercial site in the future. This pond over here is actually currently being negotiated right now with the Department of Transportation, and this is a pond that is intended to be built for the holding of stormwater runoff and widening of, say, Road 80 in this particular area. So it'll be a joint use pond. The majority of the college's water will be held at this point, but this pond here will come to a structure here which goes directly across State Road 80 and into the Palm Beach Canal, and we're going to be tying back into this pond with our stormwater runoff, which again will begin to minimize any impact that we have on the surrounding canal systems with our stormwater. With that, I'll be glad to answer or try to answer any questions that the council have.
Let me just clarify what I heard. I thought I heard, phase 1, you've got initially a 3-building plan. It could be more, but at this point, you don't have any plans.
No, the phase 1 is strictly for 3 buildings, a total of 180,000 square feet of space in all 3 of the buildings combined. If there are additional buildings beyond the 3, it will be the beginning of phase 2. It will be another addition and modification to this master plan.
Okay, and I thought you said something about 5 to 7 years would be maybe a build-out of phase 1?
Yeah, typically that's what we would envision. Usually when we begin the college, its history shows that when it starts the construction of a new campus and the location, it tends to involve itself in making sure that they have adequate office and classroom and meeting space available on that site. So the next couple of buildings the college built are likely to be built on the site. The length of time that it takes us to build these 3 buildings is associated with a couple things: the growth of the programs that are going to be located on this property and the availability of funds for the design and construction. At the present time, we only have funding that has been put together by our Vice President of Business and Administration, Mr. Becker, and approved by our board. Part of that funding comes from the state of Florida. And part of that funding comes from other sources, the college has available.
Okay, I understand the pond for college purposes is certainly part of phase one. Is that something that will go in before the first building goes up, or is it something that kind of coordinated with?
The normal sequence of construction, the site development usually has the ponds constructed early on, because any fill that comes out of the pond is usually used in, elevating the, both the building pads and the parking lot elevations. And we're asking the design engineers to elevate the road elevation to a 100-year storm level to ensure that the access to the property is kept above any flooding areas that would happen during storm events, major storm events.
Ron?
John, when we talk about the two ponds and stuff, can you give me an estimated time this year, next year, that they might be dug? Because the reason I'm asking, the important thing is they will cover your drainage, but until those ponds get dug, that place is going to be, if we have a storm or something, it's going to be underwater from just past experience. So how soon do you think the ponds will get dug?
Well, like I said, the construction schedule is yet to be firmly established. We do have a construction management firm, Belfour Beatty, that is under contract with the college for the construction of the building. The building is in design. The most recent schedule I seen that came out this week from the construction manager said that the permits, and the longest run on those permits is through South Florida Water Management, are due to be in late this year, yet in 2014. If we get that permit from South Florida in December of this year, as they're projecting, we intend to start construction, and the pond will be one of the first things built, assuming that our agreement with the Department of Transportation, which our attorney's been working on for some time now with their attorneys, is in place by the time we're ready to start.
And John, there's only one thing that bothers me about the college. I supported the college. I think it's going to be one of the best things that's ever happened. But I was disappointed when the college said that they would not pay Loxahatchee Water Control District assessment fees for drainage and stuff. And I realize you're a state organization. You don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to pay. And what bothers me is I know for a fact, I've been here 53 years, until you get those ponds dug, you cannot keep from flooding on that corner lot. And you will need our canals for drainage and stuff. And I'll be honest with you, if it was my responsibility, my authority to allow you to use the canals, I would not allow you to use them if you did not want to pay assessments. Now, when the assessments, roughly it's about $10,000 a year, and that's not too much to put back into Loxahatchee Groves. So I think they're communicating with you, but I thought the final say-so was that you would not pay it. I would hope we could communicate more with you about that. 10,000 means a lot to the residents of this town, and I would like to see the college, along with any other developer that comes along Southern Boulevard, to take a little interest in this town and pay like the rest of us for drainage assessments. If you're using our drainage canals, when you don't need them, then I wouldn't expect you to pay for it. So that's the only problem that I have.
Your point's well taken. I understand what you're saying. In any community, any development has the potential to have an impact. We're talking about right now that we've got ongoing negotiations with the Department of Transportation. It's joining with them with the direct line to the C-51. But, the college is also planning to be here and a neighbor in this community for a long time to come. I don't think we're ever going to be at a point where we're going to be not wanting to sit down and continue discussing matters. So if you have a concern, if you have an interest, it's a concern to the town, the college is ready to listen to those concerns. Now, when it comes to money, I've got to kind of go up the food chain here because I've got people that direct me and I'll do that stuff. But as far as the conversation and understanding what is our common interest, we both have certain things that are in our common interest, and we need to start off with good foot.
Okay. All right, you have another presenter, or?
No, that's the end of our presentation. Actually, there was a more detailed submission that was presented to the town. There's a lot of background information on the mitigation studies and the sizing of buildings and other things which I didn't get into, because the specific intent tonight was to present to the town and to the public the master plan and be able to take that to our board when we ask for their approval, any comments that we get from this meeting.
Sounds great. I've got, right now, I've got 3 comment cards. I've got Bill Lauda, Grace Joyce, and Keith Harris. You guys want to come up?
Bill Lauda, 1300 E Road, and for Atlantic University. Couple of things. I've been a very, very staunch supporter of the college coming out here and have many talks with Dennis Galvin on bringing it here. In fact, I even mentioned to him that I'd love to teach environmental chemistry if you ever get out here. Anyway, a couple of things. I heard you say, and I think this is a quote, conducive to represent the area. And then there was a visual connection with the landscape. Okay, I bring those 2 things up that you mentioned, and then I put it in context with the picture I saw in the paper. Okay, I thought during the initial go-through with this, was there not mention of the Rural Vista guidelines? Because the picture I saw in the paper would look great bordering Central Park. But I'm not sure how it's going to fit into the natural landscape of Waxahachie Groves. The other thing is on what Councilman Gerald brought up, not paying the assessment for Waxahachie Groves water control. Does Renaissance School pay? Does the hospital pay? Does Everglades farm equipment pay? I think these are our big commercial users, and if DOT can 100% guarantee that any water falling on the college property goes out. That also brings up now is the commercial, the 22 acres of commercial. Are they going to continue to pay Waxahachie Groves water control? How is their water going to get to our canals? Anyway, welcome, but please reconsider the design of the building.
Okay, John?
When we came through for the comp plan amendment and the zoning approval on the property, the college presented, along with the site plan, a list of architectural design guidelines that parallel the sense of materials and things that is part of the Rural Vista guidelines for the community. The building and design, although I would agree is more contemporary than a number of other things that maybe are currently in the neighborhood, will have the stone features and the simulated engineered wood features and other types of materials that hopefully will pick up the flavor of the local community and become an asset to the community rather than anything in the negative sense. As far as the rain, the rain falls on the property right now, and I've spent some time out on the property as I go back and forth to our Belle Glade campus. I always stop by out here, especially during the rain or after rain events, to see what the property. I'm surprised to see the property is dry actually as it's been in the last few weeks, considering the inordinate amount of rain that's been coming down. Although I heard from the surveyor that had been on the site for about a month now, that there's been a little bit less rain here than some of the other communities. All in all, rainfall falls on the property that needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be all the
It still percolates down sideways to the canal. And Darcy's law is going to tell us that. The only thing, on your architectural design, the picture in the paper was the only thing I ever saw. And it was just this flying buttress of glass or something that I saw. It was,
There is a lot of glazing in the building, although we are not building this particular building in compliance with LEED standards. We have petitioned our board to allow us to adopt the International Green Construction Code as part of our code, measurement codes that we follow. We feel that we can design a more energy efficient building if we're allowed to use that code because of certain modifications that are allowed on the design of certain mechanical systems that are not allowed with LEED standards. Part of LEED, still in any sustainable design in a building, looks for natural daylighting as being part of the thing that offsets the artificial light that we've all come to rely on inside of our buildings. And a lot of our lighting systems right now are designed in the more recent buildings that we built. The interface with the lighting systems will actually dim, or in some cases go out, based on the amount of natural sunlight that they can get in the outdoors. We've done that both with skylights through the roof of the buildings, as well as larger than normal insulated window systems. It's all impact resistant glass. It's low E glass, which is a fancy way of saying that it's more heat reflective than the typical glass you can find in a house, in order not to build up a lot of solar radiation within the lighting coming through the windows. The design is in the initial stages. It's right now it's at the schematic level. We still are in the development of details and materials that are going to be finalized for the design of the buildings, and we'll take your comment into consideration. We appreciate it.
Anyway, and then the obvious follow-up from Rio Vista guidelines is, where does the hitching post go? Okay.
Thank you, John. Grace Joyce? Thank you, Bill.
Good evening, for the record, Grace Joyce, 147th Avenue North. Would you mind bringing the picture back up to this
I don't know.
site plan, please? Thank you. I serve on the Waxahachie Groves Land Planning Agency, and we were discussing the site plan to the east of you. And the topic of this entry from Southern Boulevard came into play, and there was a lot of conversation about that. And one of the concerns that the board had was whether or not this configuration would accommodate deliveries into, commercial traffic, 18-wheelers, that would be going into the site to the east. And it looks great. I mean, it's really nice. The roundabout is really great. I see that that's where the bus stop would be if you can work it out with Palm Tran, which is a great asset. I just wanted to, just as a board member, check to see, did you have that conversation when you contemplated this design, that the major truck traffic was going to be coming through here to access the site to the east?
Can I try to answer that question?
I would love it if you did.
We just met earlier this week with both the representatives from the construction firm and the design firm, including the civil engineer that's in charge of the site improvements, as you see on this plan. One of the things they came up and told us is that they've been in conversation with the adjacent commercial property owner who is concerned about this particular radius right here.
Yes.
And their ability, as you say, to get trucks, and we're like, there be semis, we get semis coming to our campus. It seems like we don't have local trucks anymore, everybody delivers in these big things. So we've instructed our engineers to actually make modifications at this drive approach here to accommodate the movement of trucks into this piece of property. The negotiations with Palm Tran are not finalized or anything, but we have had some initial discussions with them. We're interested in providing public transportation to our site. If we can do anything to discourage the use of automobiles and make other means of transportation available, we'd like to make it available. Palm Tran has expressed some interest in actually bringing buses onto the site. So we're going to continue our conversation with them.
I just have one more comment as it relates to the site plan, and I know this is conceptual and we're just discussing it, but the one, and it's beautiful, you guys did a great job. I'm proud to have been sitting on the board that, helped support your application moving forward. Very excited that this is coming to our community. The parking lot, I think, needs more trees, actually, near where the parking spaces are. the students and the faculty who come here will be here for hours. And there's a lot, particularly the parking lot to the north, where there appears, there's sidewalk. It would be great to have some trees lining so that you have a canopy that's created over the parking spaces to provide some shade.
That's an excellent comment, and it's a sustainable design standards. They talk about, both the reflectivity of surfaces and parking and driveways, and as well as shading coefficients and shading factors over paved areas, especially parking areas. And again, at a recent meeting with the engineers, they've talked about the cost points on asphalt, the design of, initially we had planned for asphalt dry aisles and paver blocks that would be, that allow the water to percolate directly into the ground for all the parking spaces. The engineers come back and said that the price point on asphalt and concrete are almost identical, which I'm surprised because the contractor confirmed that. He said it would be as cost efficient to build the drive aisles out of concrete and to build the parking spaces out of pervious concrete to allow for the direct percolation. And then to put crushed rock underneath both of those surfaces to actually use the sub-paved system under the parking as a method of water storage and reduce the amount of lake size that we're required to have on the site to reduce the amount of trees that we have to cut down. We've given the engineer permission to go ahead and design the site around concrete being used. The thing about pervious concrete, however, is it doesn't like leaves. And, that's the drawback on it, is that although there are some trees shown on this particular site plan, the spacing, these landscape islands in the middle here, and the trees that are shown are existing trees that are out on the property now. We've kind of staggered some of these parking bays in order to be able to maintain some of this natural vegetation that's out there. Now, this stuff along this driveway right here is just planted vegetation. But if we go ahead with the actual pervious concrete, you're not going to be able to put a bunch of trees over it because it won't work. You can't have foliage matter actually get on the pavement and expect it to still be able to absorb and percolate the water as it's intended to, it's engineered to.
I respect that answer, but as I mentioned, I do sit on the LPA.
I understand the point.
And I look forward to you guys coming back before us so we can talk about the building design and the rural Vista guidelines as well as the landscaping on the site. But great job and welcome to the community.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, John. Keith Harris.
Yes, I'm Keith Harris. I reside at 2580 C Road. I'm also a member of the town's planning and zoning board. And I thank you all for taking the time to come and share with us your exciting plans for the future of your college campus and how it's going to be an asset to this town. I do have a couple questions. I know this is phase one that you were presenting tonight. It is my recollection that one of the units to the commencement of construction was the improvements of B Road from State Road 80 all the way up to Okeechobee Boulevard. It was to be Ojum from some point at the college up to Okeechobee, and I believe a traffic light was to be installed. I'm not sure if Palm Beach State College is aware, but the town has started some preliminary discussions with Palm Beach County to take control of Okeechobee. There was a joint session convened in May between the Roadway Equestrian Trail Greenway Advisory Committee and the Planning and Zoning Board, where a recommendation was made to the town to take control of that road and also put in roundabouts in lieu of stoplights. So I want to bring that to your attention. I appreciate you willing to go ahead and commit the monies to the OJO, even though the other two property owners have not committed as of yet. But I really want to see this work performed as of my understanding that it was going to be performed before the first tax started. And so we got a lot to do before you start. You got 7 months, I believe, before you're looking at commencement of construction, whether it be the lakes or the buildings themselves. So we need to get this road going, and we need to be building it the way the citizens of Waxahachie Roads envision it. Thank you.
That's the point, and I'm sorry, and I apologize to the council because it focused on buildings and site plans as an architect, but it was part of what the college presented to the council and the town initially. We came in and talked about the rezoning and the development of this piece of property, and it included pavement, asphalt paving of B Road from the college connection to B Road all the way to Southern Boulevard, including the intersection improvements that are up there, and the turn lanes and everything will be in there. I talked to the engineer recently. He said he's recently been talking with people in the Water Control Board, and they've kind of asked, instead of putting sidewalks along that stretch of pavement, to put in a horse trail instead, which they're going to put in instead of the walkways, thinking they'd probably get more use out here than the walkways. But from the connection that the college is making to B Road all the way to Okeechobee is intending to be OJ.
Yes.
And that's part of the plan we've been working on too. The college has been working with the two other property owners for many months. The attorneys have been working. I've been in some of the meetings, but the attorneys have been working on an agreement that will put the funding in place with the town to get the Oakland section done and actually defining the cost split between the three property owners to do the paved section as part of this actual construction, which is what the intent is. So when we build the first phase, number one, we're not going to have any construction. It's our intent not to put any construction traffic or allow any construction traffic on B Road. We're going to have a single point of entrance from State Road 80 that is, we're investigating the permits now, right where the main entrance road is, which will be the single construction point of entrance and exit from this particular parcel. The actual paving, as in the development of most sites, it first gets the lakes and the elevations are all brought up, then the building goes up, and then the paving goes in. When that paving goes in, B Road is intended to be paved as part of that contract. And the Ocean section, the money the college has committed to through its agreement will be in the hands of the town before we start construction.
So just be aware that the town is expecting a equestrian trail down to Southern, and we're looking at roundabouts at Okeechobee. So you need to put that in your numbers.
At Okeechobee and State Road 80?
No, at Okeechobee and B Road.
Oh, and B Road, okay.
Thank you, Keith. All right, Don Turner,
Yes, sir.
any comments?
Oh, no, sir.
All right, that's the last of the public comments I've got. All right, Ron?
John, one more question. When you start construction, as far as security, have you worked that out? Well, I know State College, they have their own security and stuff, but when you start construction, I'm assuming you're gonna have a fenced-in area. But
The contractor plans to provide fencing around the site and control gates. I haven't heard the contractor say they're planning to put security guards on the site. At the time the college moves in, we'll have a security force on the site, obviously. But the site will be secured before we ever start any construction.
Okay, all right, because if you can get an answer as far as that in the future about security for the construction equipment and stuff, because they're going to have easy access to it off Southern Boulevard, so trust me, you will
I've
have
had
problems.
experiences at our Bellwood Lake campus, unfortunate experiences the contractor has when they were building that site, and certain sites are more visible or available, I guess, for people of like mind to think about doing things like that, but the contractor's aware of the location of the site, and they are contractually required to secure the property.
Okay, thanks, anything else, Ron? Okay, Jim? Just want to say thank you, appreciate the effort that goes into it. I know you brought a good crowd tonight, but anyway, thank you, we're looking forward to a good working relationship. I appreciate, there's not many times we'll need a 250-seat auditorium, but I appreciate your willingness to share that with the community when we need.
New town hall.
No, just for big meetings, we don't need any more.
We might need it during a hurricane,
Or Gator Road.
to make it secure, make it strong.
Don't scare them. All right, thank you very much, and motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. Dave, how you doing?
Yes.
Pretty soon. Determined that I should show up.
He was hanging out there.
I've got so many.
Well, you were eating.
My great experience, they all start at the same time.
Go ahead.
How are you?
Well, but that's one project, it's really one location thing. Take one of the shirts.
Yeah, you probably should, you're gonna need it anyway, to get there too, so.
So unless you want to see it, actually connected to a building. Something come up with plans. But don't you know? Doc, I saw you in your resume, it was a great job. And if you need something to control organic chemistry.
Oh, yeah, everything's chemistry for the health science. March 31st.
He's bored already.
Oh, you know what, Rob?
How many people does it take to go? We have two people.
Absolutely not. 5, 7, 12.
What's that?
Are they really gonna try to change that? Yeah, but I How are you?
How are you? You never know what kind of curveball I'll throw.
Here's what it's about. There is a state to recognize community college and other go into a community that they have impact, and that the state is recognizing that they are able to make up. We made y'all aware of what we sent a letter. The impact is
Kirk, he's here.
You are thinking about
Take care,
And it was going to send it to me. He said that he's coordinating with the county. He hasn't seen the final. And it's supposed to be significantly revised in terms of catching most of the waste program. I don't know why they would take it. Should be.
John, I'll be out just a second.
over what they had.
We had almost a whole district.
There, I'm concerned about my area being that,
There, now I can go down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you wanted that way.
No, I'm so.
I signed up for some kind of a FEMA flood map service, and all they had is a thunder.
All right, Cameron, good evening and welcome to the August 19th meeting of the Waxahachie Groves Town Council. We've got a few less people here than we had last year. If we could have the roll call, please.
Mayor Browning,
Here.
Vice Mayor Darrell,
Here.
Councilman Dolphiny,
Here.
Councilman Leeang,
Here.
Councilman Roberts.
Yeah.
Okay, if we would stand for the pledge, remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, again, we ask for wisdom and guidance. We again thank you that you protected us from any hurricanes, and we continually ask for that help. And watch over our community, and I pray for those that are serving overseas. I also pray for those in St. Louis that are facing all the violence, and I pray that will calm down. We pray in your name. Amen. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda if there are no changes. Okay, we have a motion by Jim, second by Ryan. Any comments by council members? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, passes 5-0. Moving to the consent agenda.
Make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
Okay. I think there's something that Mark wants to withdraw from the consent agenda.
One comment, Your Honor, we'd like to withdraw B. B is a letter that is no longer needed to be approved by town council, so you would just be approving item 2A in the consent agenda.
Okay. So is that all right with your
Yes,
motion?
as amended.
Okay. As amended?
Second.
Okay, second by Ryan, motion by Jim. Discussion by council. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Public comments. Dennis Lip.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. For the record, Dennis Lip, 13402 North Road. On your agenda packs tonight, I left you an Inspector General comment. I'd like to have that entered into the record and accepted for final.
All right, we got a motion. Everybody's got it in front of you. Motion to accept.
Motion on receipt.
Chief, all right, second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ryan, second by Jim. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. 5-0 passes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Dennis. All right, I've got Keith Harris.
Motion to receive and file.
Okay, motion by Jim, second by Ryan. Discussion by council. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0.
Keith Harris, 2580 C Road. From the book of Job, chapter 19, verse 7. Behold, I cry violence, but I get no answer. I shout for help, but there is no justice. He has walled up my way so I cannot pass, and he has put darkness on my paths. In 51 days, I've had to twice seek sanctuaries from the actions of supervisors from the Royal and Ancient Fraternal Order of the Water District. From the book of Luke, the 17th chapter, the 3rd verse, be on your guard. If your brother sins, rebuke him. The Water District letter of August 8th issued in the town crier was an exercise to defame my character. I take exception with the 14 affronts that were offered. The very title of this letter is false, as the grievance letter that I just submitted to you includes 11 points to validate that I do understand. The Water District letter suggests I do not participate in town and district issues and workshops. The reality is I've been a town volunteer for 3 years and served on 2 town committees. The grievance letter contains 6 issues that I was instrumental in, including the May 16th Town Crier article, Water District Scrutinizing Culvert Conditions, and the reason why the Water District was scrutinizing the culverts in the first place. Hello? I mean, good gosh. The Water District language, disjointed anger, is a wrongful reference to my persona. Additional defamation of character comments include suggestions of background issues and frustrations with one's own circumstances. The letter is simply an elected official setting in public judgment of a private citizen for exercising his constitutional rights to express his opinion. God teaches us that it is a necessity for everyone to look into one's own life and not to somehow think their life is the standard by which the rest of the world should be. I did not complain to the Inspector General. They called me. You can confirm this with the town clerk. I've never been in contact with the Palm Beach Ethics Commission, involved in any referendum petition, filed a lawsuit, and the Cookie Monster letter does not contain granting rights. The writings of such a letter after the forewarning and the retreat of the Water District Administrator is proof of the deliberate attempt to perform a libelous act and demonstrates the forethought of malice. Defamation of character, Keith Harris. The name is the first 2 words of the article and the first 2 words of the summarizing last paragraph. The entire article was to defame Keith Harris. I am requesting the resignation of John Ryan from the Water District, a letter of apology from the Water District in the form of a letter of retraction in the town crier, and I have filed a complaint against the Water District with the American Civil Liberties Union of Florida. I've also forwarded my Water District grievances to Governor Scott. Gentlemen, this time there will be an investigation. The Water District has become riddled with unethical behavior and cronyism. Select board of supervisors, past and present, have not protected the best interests of the community and have wasted taxpayers' money on patronage, no-bid contracts. I ask the citizens of the Groves to make the independent water district dependent upon the Malachi Groves. Just remember, we can always vote a man into the water district, but we can't make him think. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Keith. John Ryan?
John Ryan, 3508 Day Road. I think Keith's comments are kind of classic ready, fire, aim. If he really read the letter, he could see that I was, in a general way, answering the fact that there are no clandestine agreements, that all agreements are reviewed and coordinated by legal counsel for the town and district. They pass muster with the Auditor General's requirements. They're audited, we have management letters, and we file all the necessary reports for the state. I think the issue that Keith has does have a background that relates to him, but I wrote the letter as a general comment on several of the expensive forays that some of our residents have created for the town and the district. It was not just exclusively his Cookie Monster letter. I do feel that these kinds of letters need a response, but I think the investigations, if any, will bear out that I did not speak on behalf of the Water Control District. I spoke on my own behalf as a resident, landowner, and taxpayer. I think that Keith misunderstands public figures. I think he misunderstands the written word in some cases. And I think the real problem is that he doesn't either pay attention to facts or seek explanations that deal with the issue. I think that the resolution, and I was going to propose this at the next district meeting, was that whatever requests he's making for background information and whatever explanations would help him understand better, rather than just firing off these rants, that I would meet with him in a public meeting. We wanted to schedule a time here and go over his letter, my letter, and some of the requests for information that I think he's made already misunderstanding before he's really considered the information. So I think that a public hearing would be helpful, because I think all that's happening now is that issues without facts and understanding, without adequate facts and understanding, are being made into sensationalism. And I don't think the town crier in 300 words offers an appropriate way to explain the issues and deal with them.
Thank you, John. All right, moving on to item 4, presentation, capital improvement. Bill?
Mayor, council, tonight we've already taken and addressed the majority of the funds, the remaining 2 funds that the council has to address so that we can prepare the tentative budget for your September meeting with the transportation fund and the CIP fund. Before you tonight is the transportation fund first. I will tell you that on the summary page, there's an account that is missing an amount, but if you look under council recommended, it is balanced. There's $812,311 recommended be appropriated. I missed a cell or a formula carrying it over to the last column, 490,252, which would bring you to the 812,311. With that, we stand ready to go through the individual line items. First, revenues, if the mayor would like the council. The 6 cent and 5 cent first local option fuel tax and second local option fuel tax estimates are provided by the State of Florida Revenue Estimating Conference, and they've been fairly consistent. And what they have told us for the next year is that the projections are a little bit higher than the current year, but it's a couple $100. To the 6 cent is to $250,858, and the 5 cent is to $117,768. Slightly different from what we originally proposed. Additionally, we're recommending that the council take from the gas tax fund balance from those two, from the 5 cent, $233,000, and from the 6 cent, $210,685. And in essence, what we're going to do is we're going to be transferring that to another fund. If you will follow me down to the appropriations, you will see traffic control signs. We're estimating $10,000 for installation, traffic control, and equestrian signs. Following that, we have town road maintenance, and we've estimated that at $102,059. We've got $25,000 for the town roads, with the most recent bid at $110 per mile. We have estimated base rock at $12 a ton, and some miscellaneous road repairs, and we put in, I think the FAAC asked that we put in hedging, so we've added $40,000 for hedging on the expenditures. For the maintenance of the 6 cent, that is the annual reimbursement up to $150,000 to the Waxahachie Road Water Control District. Special projects, we've been asked to put in $60,000 for equestrian crossings at Okeechobee Boulevard. And following that, we're transferring 2 capital projects, funding the 233 from 5 cent fund balance, 210,685 from 6 cent, and then we will have some 5 cent current revenues that will be transferring over to the capital project fund. With that, I'm ready to try to answer any questions I can.
Okay, Tom?
I wanted to bring up, we talked about the $150,000 relative to district roads. And, you know, we should be receiving, I think, less because when the argument was made before that it related to lane miles, we reduced the district lane miles and increased ours. So I don't think we should be transferring as much money to the district at a time when they have a budget surplus and we could use the money more for town projects.
Does that reflect the lane mileage that each one has? In other words, originally, the money we were given was based on their lane miles as far as the district roads. Since that point, several roads have been turned over to the town.
It does not reflect that. It reflects the standing position council's had heretofore.
And I'm in agreement with Tom. I think it needs to reflect, as the roads come over to the town, that part of the gas tax money should stay with the town. I believe at the same percentage. In other words, we could justify giving it to them because of lane miles. We pay for the services and the maintenance to the water control board. So I think that's my thought. What's the rest of the council? How do you feel on that?
So we start with $400,000 in gas tax, I'm sorry. The gas tax money is in the 370 almost range between the two funds, maintenance and capital. So if you're talking about 150,000, then, you know, percentages, certainly less than half, we've used 150 before, but one of the things that we saw this past year was that relative to road maintenance, the money that we transferred to the water control district was used for canal improvements, canal maintenance, which is critical and part of, as I understand it, road maintenance funding. So the previous maintenance of roads using 150,000 has been used, I believe, this year, and the intent would be going forward that it's used for canal improvements, which are not just road improvements, not just road maintenance. So some number, if you want to go different, but I don't know if it's that simple to say, well, you know, we had, before we had 12 segments and give them 150,000, and now we have, in terms of rough number, now we have 8 segments that they have, and therefore dropped from 100,000 or something close to that. They're using the funds, if they're not available from us for, what they're trying to do is get caught up on drainage issues with the canals that they've been putting off, as I understand it. If that's not done through the gas tax money, which is allowed, then it could very well just come back to something they're gonna charge us in terms of an assessment from the town. So members of the town are not necessarily going to benefit if you create an increase in water control assessment because we didn't put, let's say, $50,000 of the 150 into their plan, which is larger. I believe it's close to 50,000. John can tell me that they have at least purchased a buy for that dredging unit that they, and I believe, well, I just don't know the exact number, but I believe it's something in the neighborhood with the dredging unit. And that's going to be used for the canal dredging, which is something that they not maintained, from what I understand, the recommended maintenance that they should have been sort of catching up. So that's something we'll see over the next 2 years anyway. This year starting as the first of 2 more years.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so
I think that response just proves that it never was about lane miles, it was just about them getting money. And it remains just about them getting money. And the argument that, well, if they don't get it from us, they're going to get it from the other people. And the other people is a different set of folks in a different set of ways. People are taxed differently than they are through the town, number one issue. Second issue is that at the same time the district says, oh, look, we did so good on our budget, we are $150,000 surplus, or $147,000 surplus. We're giving them $150,000. The math doesn't add up, okay, until you add our contribution. Now, a lot of people for a long time have said the district ought to be dependent. The district ought to either stand on its own for its own money and quit leaning on the town, or it ought to be dependent. And then we could have a meeting to discuss what are the drainage expenses and what are the road expenses. We could fund them all through whatever methods we have, and we could do it without having a separate set of folks who are elected by a different set of folks that are in this room in a different way. And don't pretend that that's not the case. So, while you have this other group of people who try to set another set of rules and want it their way, they want us to pay their bills. And I don't believe that that is appropriate. Now, the idea that it was about lane miles was what Cleet and others put up right here. They were adamant about it, that that's what it was about. All of a sudden, that argument doesn't work. So now it's about drainage. Well, they're the drainage district. Isn't that their job? But now we have to pay that bill out of Santa Claus money? Except at the same time that this money's going over to them so that they don't raise their budget, when people come to us and say, what are you going to do to help us out about improving our roads? We don't have the money because, since we've been in town, 150 minimum has gone to them. Used to be in the 200s. And I don't know how that related to the lane miles. My point being, it's inappropriate. We either need to move towards dependent district and not have these conversations, or they need to move towards real independence in which they do what they do. That's my thoughts on that.
Okay, any other council members? Bob?
We used to justify giving the district the money because of the lane miles, okay? I've justified it my own self for the fact that if I'm right and management is here, they can correct me if I'm wrong. Out of that $150,000, every time they charge us to the work they did on Marcella, Compton, and Bryan, the basins, we've accepted the Ojum roads, okay? They're putting drainage basin in on those roads that they couldn't afford to put in when the roads was initially paved, but they're putting it in now because they need it. They know that the water's standing in certain areas, and the only way you're going to get rid of it is putting those basins in. Okay, if I'm right, the $150,000 that we allot them every year, if they do not, when they bill us for something, it comes out of that $150,000. Am I wrong about that?
Well, Vice Mayor, there are a variety of things that are billed under the 150,000, but like the one example you gave, relative to Compton, and those monies actually came out of the road repair contract that we have with them. As we remember, we have that contract as well as a couple others. So, we could go into detail what they've asked it for in previous, but the 150,000 has gone to a variety of issues.
Right, and my thing is that 150,000, if they do not use that 150,000, that's going to in some way benefit the residents of Waxahachie, do they not roll that over? I mean, do they use the 150,000 every year? And I know that our management is very strict about how they get their money and what they use it on. We keep a close eye on them. Do they justify the use of that 150,000?
Whenever they can justify and we agree to as being appropriate, they get those monies, but it doesn't roll over to them. The money bill comes back to us. If they, for example, in a given year, if they've only been able to show us expenses of $117,000, that's what they get, and the other $33,000 stays with the town.
Right, and that's the point I'm trying to make. In other words, if they only use 50,000 out of that 150, the other would come back to us. Now, what I'd like to see, okay, personally, I think that we work well as a team. I think we did the study a long time ago because the landowners wanted it. The guy that was an outsider, didn't favor either side, said that this town benefited by having a water control district and by having a town. He said we reap our best benefits by the two working together. Now, we get assessments per acre through the water control district. Okay, if you do away with those assessments, and these farmers that's got 200 acres, these farmers that got 40 and 60 acres, they're paying the blunt of the assessments to the water control district. Now, if we take away that, I believe in the long run it's going to cost all the taxpayers more, because farmland is not as valuable as a home, a beautiful home on a residence being used as a residence. My point is simply that out of the 150,000, I would like to see us leave it alone, see how much they use this year. We seem to have a very good working relationship with our management team and the water control district, the best we've had in the last few years. It seems to be getting better. I would like to see us leave it as it is, see how much out of that 150,000 we actually use. I know you'll make sure it's justified, and at the end of the year, if we use 50,000 out of the 150, then why would we allot them 150,000? But let's see how it works this year and move from there.
Tom?
Ron just touched on exactly what I'm talking about. These farmers, if we don't make the district increase their assessment to cover their things they're doing, then we're subsidizing. That's my point entirely. And there are different people, many of which don't even live here, so.
Right. Jim?
From a property perspective, each of us, when it comes to water control district, we know we pay per acre, whether you're a farm, whether you're a home. So the brunt for large land owners, they're going to pay a bigger chunk, but from a standpoint of the entire town, I don't know what the numbers are when it comes to those that are residents, landowners versus farm acreage. I don't know that split. But what I have seen in the past is the residents of this community seem to pay most of the increase when it comes to what the control district has to raise their assessment for. Because I thought most of the acreage when you added up was that of residents and resident owners, not farming in large tracts necessarily. I mean, if you're talking about 60 acres, if you get down my street, I've got close to 60 acres, and so there's all residential, so I don't believe that that's the case, and it has always in the past, water control district, if they have a need to raise assessments, we pay it. We pay it along a price alongside all the farmers. Anyways, the guys across the street from you, Dave, for example, and those in my neighborhood. So I don't, it's a matter of, when we look at the amount, you look at 370,000 approximately. Or sorry, is that 270? 370, right? If you take 370, and if 150 was an equitable amount before, then some number less than that, but not that much less, would be on that 370. Some number would be, close to, I think, 150. I haven't done the math. But the point is, if there's money needed to maintain the canals, which is part of maintaining the road, as we saw in the past, as the canal erosion was caused by canal bank erosion, caused by water problems and drainage, that we're going to see assessment increases on. I think we paid the lion's share as far as residents. I'd rather see money coming to them from gas tax. If we're going to do the math and the numbers, calculate it out exactly on road miles, that's fine. But I like the idea of we've been giving them 150 and they've been using it for things to keep their assessment on most of the people in this community, or all the people in the community down. And I'm in favor of doing that, so we don't have to raise our assessments.
Okay, Tom?
Well, there are quite a few large landowners that have properties that add up to hundreds of acres, but that aside, for us to be subsidizing the water district and giving them gas tax money they couldn't otherwise get from the state, it must say something. Number one, they shouldn't get it. They're not supposed to get it. We're making some little contrivance to make it happen for them, to subsidize them. Gas tax money, and they're the only district that gets subsidized in this way. Secondly, why don't they turn the roads over to us and we'll take care of them? And if they need some money for the ditches, we can give them some money to dig out the ditches. But I don't see that, if we're responsible for the ditches and we're responsible for the roads and were responsible for another thing, misinformation is excellent there all the time. The catch basins and stuff, in the IGC meeting, they said they were gonna take those out of the money that they're supposedly holding back when they originally did the things. Well, when they originally did the roads, they had borrowed all the money. How is it they couldn't afford to have done any of the work at the time? It's really not a sensible explanation of what goes on. Why they didn't install those catch basins all down the ocean roads? Why would the supervisor, not the supervisor, but why would the director, why would Cleve not install those? What were they trying to save the money for? The money was for those roads. Why would you try to save money if doing it right is what you're supposed to do? After the roads were done, they went and tore them up. Why? That made no sense. They only did it after the fact, after things failed. That does not make sense. These folks have been doing it a long time. It doesn't mean they've been doing it right. We have a problem here with a lot of things. As I touched on at the last meeting, people in the community are not, everything's great with these folks. People are actually shocked at the failure and the level of just every single day you have mud and you have a mess and you have all this stuff, and you talk to the guys that work for them and they say, well, it doesn't have to be this way. We could use a different material. Yeah, no one will consider using a different material. We keep using this material that the Equestrians complain about, that the grader gentleman says himself, we don't need to use this, we could use something else. I could make these roads nice like they used to be. Everybody says, oh, I liked them 7, 10 years ago. Why are we doing this? I don't understand it. But it's because the district does it. Because we're not in charge. We just pay them money and they do whatever the heck they want. Rural road standards, whatever the heck that is. 10 grand? No, that 10 grand didn't come out of that 150. That was the 10 grand on top. Check out how much money we've given them this year. It's way more than 150.
I think there's been several good points. My thought is, and going back a little bit history, Water Control Board had all of the district roads and all of the drainage along the district roads. And there was no gas tax money coming into the district, and there was no town. When the town came in, we had the ability to collect gas tax. To me, we justified giving the percentage of the gas tax to the Water Control Board based on the percentage of the road miles that they had as compared to what we had. Now that that's been reduced, the Water Control Board has always had the drainage. That's never changed. That's what the assessment pays for. So to me, I think the gas tax money should revert to the town. The difference, it should go by the lane miles, and the difference would come to the road, because we're already incurring expenses. We've taken over, I know, D Road. Probably the others are the same way. We're experiencing the breaking off and the sloughing off along the side. I counted 30 holes. Todd might have counted more, but I know I counted 30 from Okeechobee to my house that need to be repaired. So the town is going to incur